Mariam Zaidi there. Well, for more on China-Dutch economic ties, let's bring in Marc Ross. Marc is the founder of Caracal Global. Welcome back to the show.
Good to see you.
So, Marc, tell us about the expectations for this working visit.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is obviously there's been Sino-Dutch relations going back to the 17th century, long history between the two nations. As you mentioned, this is the second time the king has visited the country. But obviously one of the cool things is that Holland was one of the first nations to sign on to the Asian Investment Bank, spearheaded by the Chinese.
And so in terms of that, we also know for cooperation, they're also interested in building more ties when it comes to the Belt and Road Initiative. What do you see as the greatest opportunities for both countries in that?
Well, Rotterdam, one of the largest ports in the world, is based in Holland, and the Amsterdam airport is one of the best airports in the world. Holland has a long history of infrastructure and logistics, and geographically, the train system for the One Belt, One Road is due to stop in Holland, so there's a physical connection there between the two countries. So it's a very important visit for both the king and for the Chinese government.
And in terms of the future opportunities that this could bring, obviously this is a huge initiative. Where else do you think they could potentially branch out into? Yeah,
I think there's three key areas to explore. Holland is at the leading edge of solar technology, obviously has a huge emphasis on water management since most of the country is below sea level. There's a lot of crossover there. In addition, you have logistics, as we mentioned, and also agriculture. The Dutch export tons of perishable products, both flowers and other agricultural products. And China is actually one of the smallest markets. So there's a huge opportunity if you could physically connect the countries better, especially through a rail system where you can move products quicker from Holland to China and Chinese consumers.
And we know that King Willem-Alexander said his country would also take part in the first China International Import Expo that's coming up in November. Where do things currently stand in the bilateral trade picture?
Well, it's pretty small. There's actually there's a decent amount of direct investment between the two countries, but there's actually very little trade. There's a lot of exports that obviously come from China that go through the Rotterdam port, but the Dutch are very keen to, as I said, export more agricultural products. You already have big investments by Unilever, Philips, and Shell in the country, but I think they're really looking for more opportunities to sell exported agricultural products to the Chinese consumers.
And is there anything that you see that could be potential headwinds in this trade relationship?
I think the big challenge with the One Belt, One Road, there's certainly a lot of excitement, there's a lot of interest, there isn't a lot of clear details. Some speculate that the Chinese are really just looking for an opportunity to export overcapacity and employment and kind of smokestack industries. The Dutch are a bit further ahead in terms of technology, so is there ways you can match R&D, research, architecture with the needs of the Chinese government and with the One Belt, One Road? Those kind of issues need to be hammered out.
And we've certainly seen visits from both sides. We know that during President Xi's visit to the Netherlands in 2014, they set up this China-Netherlands Comprehensive Cooperative Partnership. Tell us about some of the goals they laid out and the sort of progress that we've seen on that front.
The big is, my understanding is around water management. There's been a lot of investment between the two countries. As I said, the Dutch are way ahead on water management, just based on where they are on the globe, and the Chinese have a very vested interest to direct more water to different parts of their country. So there's been a lot of connections there. You're also seeing, as I said, more investment with R&D. Huawei has set up a nice facility in Holland, as well as this dairy company, Yala, from China, has set up infrastructure there as well. So it's not fully there where I think the Dutch want to see it go, but there's certainly progress and it's moving forward, which is obviously positive for both sides.
And what about regionally? What do closer ties between China and Netherlands offer them regionally?
Well, I think overall, where Holland is on the map in Europe, it has major neighbors, Germany, the UK, France, Belgium, the ability to interact and be a gateway for the Chinese to set up operations in Holland, but be able to reach a great part of Northern Europe. It's a very big incentive for the Chinese to invest in part of that country. So the Dutch inviting more Chinese companies to set up shop there, I think you'll see that as a positive going forward.
And it's certainly not just on the business front. We've also seen more exploration of cultural ties, seeing that relationship really grow. Where do you see economic and cultural ties growing and developing going forward?
I always, maybe I focus too much on the business side, but the culture of cycling is very huge in Holland, and obviously there's a long history in China, so some of that kind of soft power connections around cycling. But as you look as way, not even so much the culture around setting up cities, urbanization, smart mobility. I think there's a lot of opportunities there, which, maybe too heavy on the business side, but certainly there's some soft power and some cultural exchanges that can happen.
Well, certainly a lot of opportunities on the table. Thank you. Always good to see you. Marc Ross, there, founder at Caracal Global.